Hello everybody. I'm going to make a tutorial on how to ride a motorcycle. I know there's plenty of videos out there, but when I was interested in trying to learn, I had to watch a bunch of different videos to answer all my questions. So I have a sheet here. I'm going to try and put everything in this video and make it the most comprehensive and detailed tutorial possible. So you should have everything answered in this, and we'll get it going. So the first part, we're going to go through the controls here. You have your ignition, which has off on. In my case, it's got a lock, which you can turn your handlebars to the left, lock it, and it'll stay this way. So it makes it harder for people to try and walk away with it. You have your kill switch here. I have hazards, my start button, turn signals, horn, high beam, low beam, pass button, which just flashes the high beam, clutch lever, custom bicycle bell, does not come on all motorcycles, you have to put that on yourself, some sort of speedometer, and then of course throttle, front brake, rear brake down there. I'll get a closer look there. You have your gear selector here. My bike, I don't know if you can see this, it has a diagram right here, and it tells you exactly in what order the gears are. First, neutral, in between, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Full click down puts you into first. Another full click up puts you into second. Up again, third, fourth, fifth, up through sixth if you have a sixth gear. When you're in first and you want to go into neutral, it's just a light little half click to get into neutral, and then you click up again if you want to go in a second, click down if you want to go back into first. But it's right in between. It's just a soft little click. Some bikes it's easier to find, others it's harder. Some will have indicators. Some will have indicators, which makes it easier to tell when you're in it or not. And then on this side is your rear brake pedal. Yours might not look like this. It might be a little bit smaller, like maybe like half the size or whatever, but this is a custom one we had to make for this because the previous guy had snapped his around here and had a screw in there as my pedal. So we put this thing on and it works great. It's really big, so you never miss it. I've seen some debate over whether when you shut off the bike you should use the kill switch versus the key. And to be honest, I think it's personal preference. I like to go kill switched, take the key to shut it off, and take that with me. But you can shut it with the key and then just turn your kill switch to off if you want to do it that way. That works too. So to turn on the bike, make sure your kickstand's up. Some bikes will have sensors that don't allow you to start it with the kickstand down. So always put that up. It'll make it much safer. And then you can go key on, that'll turn the electrical components on, kill switch on. You wait for that. Those are the fuel pumps priming in my case. Then for me, my bike, you have to have the clutch in. Actually, yeah. So even though I'm in neutral right now, I can't start it. This bike requires you to have the clutch in to start it. In some bikes, that'll be the case. So if it's not starting, try it with the clutch and then see if it works. Bike's on. I'm in neutral. I can let go. You know you're in neutral if you can roll it back and forth. If you're not, you'll easily be able to tell because you'll get stuck. So the first part I want to talk about here is finding the friction zone. This is the most important. It'll help you learn good clutch control and make your takeoffs and shifts very smooth. So now that when you're in neutral, take the clutch, grab it, click down into first. I'm in first right now. I can tell because I've let it out a little bit. Bike starts to roll forward. And if you look in my case, my clutch grabs really, really early. The friction zone is super close to the handlebars. See, I didn't move that much, maybe like half an inch, and the bike's starting to roll. My hand's right here, no throttle. And this is all clutch right now. I'm still in the friction zone, no throttle. The first thing you want to do is find that friction zone. Before you even think about adding gas, find that friction zone. And then what you can do is what we did in the motorcycle safety course. You can put your hand here, don't throttle, just something to hold on to. You just find that friction zone and let the bike roll forward get a little stretch in your legs, like I didn't move, and you just let it roll back. Now, clutch out, roll forward, and back. And that way, you can find your friction zone, and it'll make it really smooth and taking off, and you won't worry about, you know, dumping the clutch or whatever. So do that a bunch of times to really get comfortable with it. And then when you progress, you can start walking the bike like this. You're not adding any gas yet. That's what I was doing earlier. And then if you're fast enough, you know, you can put your feet up and you'll be okay. After you've walked the bike and you'll find your friction zone, you're going to add some throttle. And you don't want to start adding any throttle until you're like right where the friction zone starts. That's my personal preference. I've seen a lot of videos of people, you know, they're letting the clutch out, but they haven't reached the friction zone, and they try adding throttle, and then it just gets super loud, and then you almost start to panic. Like, let the clutch out just to grab onto your handlebars. You pop the clutch, and then this hand's stuck here, but you grip on really tight, and then you start to whiskey throttle it, and that's where you see videos of people, the bikes coming out from under them and stuff. So you really want to take this slow if it's your first time. Friction zone, find that, play around with it, roll it back and forth, walk the bike, and now you're going to want to start adding throttle. And the best way to do this is whatever one hand does, the other hand follows. So when you let the clutch out a little bit, you give it a little bit of throttle. Clutch out a little bit of throttle. And that's how, when you take out a first, that's how you want to do it. Until you can let go of the clutch, and then you just modulate throttle based on whatever speed you want to go. So it's a simultaneous motion. A little bit out here, whatever these fingers release, wrist turns. Boom. And you don't even have to go anywhere. You can actually do this when you're still doing the walking or that rolling, which I'll show you right now. So, you're in first, you let the clutch out a little bit, get in the friction zone, you can add a little throttle. Just like that. And you don't even have to go anywhere. Just clutch out, a little bit of throttle. And like, I'm just rolling back and forth in one place. And doing this would probably be the best thing to do. You do that a bunch of times, get used to it, and then you can progressively add a little more. Let it out a little more, go a little farther. And you just do that a bunch of times till you get really comfortable until you completely let it out. And you're all clutch, and now you're just modulating with the throttle. I should talk about shifting, upshifting. When you want to shift up to a higher gear, it's basically the same thing as when you're taking off, but you could almost say it's a little less precise. You don't have to be as smooth, but if you're moving up to the next gear, you'll pull in the clutch, click up to your higher gear, let out, and give it throttle again, so you can keep those RPMs up and keep the speed going. And if you don't give it enough throttle, you give it too much, it's not the biggest deal, but you always want to be smooth with this clutch. If you pop it, you can break the rear wheel loose, or wheelie the bike a little bit. So getting out of first gear, shifting up, and especially downshifting and rev matching, always be smooth with the clutch. That'll make the bike go really smooth, and you won't have any problems with that. You get ready to shift up, close the throttle, pull the clutch in, click up into second gear, give it some gas, and let the clutch out just like you would if you're releasing out of first, and then you go again. And that's the same process. Close, clutch, click, gas, and let go. So we're in first gear, let the clutch out, give it a little bit of, I'm in neutral, that'd be a smart thing to be in first. So clutch out, a little bit of throttle, boom, you're going, you want to shift up, clutch, click, let go, like that. We'll do a little U-turn here, we'll show it again. And with practice, you'll get faster and faster at this, so it'll make it easier. But you're in first. I'll let the clutch out, give it a little bit of gas. First is going. Clutch in, click up, let go, some more gas. It's hard to do this when I'm talking, so I'll try it one more time to make it a little bit easier to see. So you're in first, you're going, little clutch out, a little bit of gas. You're all throttle. Now pull the clutch in, click up, give it a little gas, and let the clutch out again. And now you're in second. And it's just like that. When you get in the higher gears, it'll get a lot smoother, and you won't have to worry as much about stalling, more or less. So braking is going to be the next important thing. You have your front brake and you have your rear brake down there. Don't quote me on this, but I believe front brake does about 70% of your braking, rear brake does 30%. Together, do the math, about 100. I don't know if you could see those skids way up there. That was me doing this previously, but you always want to practice when you're riding to use both brakes, the front and the rear in combination, because that provides the most braking power. I think a lot of dirt bike riders use rear brake when they ride, I believe. I've seen a lot of people using 2 fingers only on the front brake, which if you're experienced, go ahead, but if you're just starting, you're going to have all fingers on the throttle, let off, grab the front brake with all of them. That's just the best way to do that at the start, I believe. I'll brake right at that middle light pole there, and then we'll measure up there. So that was front brake only. That got us to about this arrow here. So that's rear brake only. And I don't know if you can tell, but I did lock it up and skid, which can happen if you go too much. This brake is kind of binary. It's all or nothing, more or less. Something like that. You do. We were a little bit before here. It's usually a little more. I wasn't paying attention to where I was braking. But you're braking, nothing on the bike should really be jerky. Everything should be smooth. Throttle, smooth. Clutch, smooth. Brake, smooth. When you brake, you come in smooth and get firm more progressively as you go. You start off smooth and then squeeze. You know, smooth, squeeze. A little bit squeeze. It's like 1, 2, 3, and then all the way. 1, 2, 3, 9. Fuck, I forgot how to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you just start smooth and then really squeeze it in. And if you go too hard on the brakes, the front brakes, you can lift the rear up and you get into a stoppie, or if the surface is bad or you're angled a little bit, the front end will slide out from under you, because all this braking power is putting force down onto the forks and onto the wheel, and with physics, there's only so much friction force that can keep the wheel up. And then if you lock up the rear, you can see you'll skid. Not a big deal if the rear wheel stays in line with the bike. If it gets out to the side, you can get a little loose. But next thing is going to be turning. You're going to have 2 types of steering. Regular steering, which is about anything below 15 miles an hour, where if you want to turn right, you turn the bars to the right. You want to turn left, turn the bars to the left. Counter steering is the most confusing I've seen, and it's really, really simple if you don't overthink it. I would try this. If you don't understand it, try it on a bicycle. It'll be the easiest and less risky way to understand it. Get going really fast and then counter steer. And when you counter steer, there's not much to it. Watch any motorcycle racing or any riding videos where people are taking turns at higher than 20 miles an hour. You'll see the bike needs to lean to turn. You can't just turn the wheel and it's going to go around that corner at the speed. It's not like a car. The bike has to lean. The way to get it to lean is by counter steering. If you want to lean to the left, you push to the left and the bike will lean. If you're taking a left turn, lean to the left, push, bike will lean, and that's how you initiate it. And you kind of just keep that constant pressure there. You don't want to really try and, push it out. Once the counter steer just initiates the lean, and then your body position and stuff will determine your lean angle. And unless you're doing motorcycle racing, your lean angle is not going to be that big. There really shouldn't be any turns on the street where you end up dragging knee or anything like that. So if you want to go to the right, push and lean right. If you got to lean to the left, all your weight's going this way, you're pushing down here, and that'll lean to the left. If you got to turn to the right, all your weight's on this bar, you push to the right, and it'll lean over there. So bicycle would be the best way to test that out if you're really afraid. Just pedal really fast and, take a turn like around the neighborhood and you counter steer, and that'll be the best way to find it. I'll try and show it around here. So regular steering, to go to right, I turn right. If I want to go left, I turn the bars to the left. And when you turn, your head always needs to be in the direction where you want to turn. Like, you could see it right now, how far my head is to the left. It always wants to be where you're going. That's the way you want to look where you want to turn. If you're turning that way, you want to be looking that way, and you'll turn that way. Once you start looking at the ground, or, target fixate's the big thing. You target fixate, you're going to end up there. Look, you turn that way. We'll get going in second here. And we'll take a faster turn up there. There's a lot of gravel here too. So you always want to look where you want to turn. That's the biggest thing. So we're going a little faster here. You lean, you push on this handlebar to make that turn. That's the best way I would explain that. Push, look, lean. And when you make the turn, you want to stay on constant throttle. Keep it smooth. Don't be jerky with it. It'll make sure everything works out really well for you. The gear you should be in for most turns is second gear. So if you're coming up to a green light, you need to make a right turn there. Drop down into second, downshifting, and then counter steer and make your turn. For driveways, or driveways in like residential areas or neighborhood roads where you have to turn there, what I like to do sometimes, if I'm not sure of the surface or just how fast I can go into these turns, I'll pull in the clutch, brake to the appropriate speed that I'm comfortable with, downshift into first, go through my turn, and once I'm straight, then I can just let the clutch out and gas and continue going in first gear. Downshifting is the last thing we're going to talk about. I'll talk about it a little bit now. Downshifting is how you get back in the lower gears when you go at a lower speed. You can just clutch in and click down all the way, and when you come to a stop, then you're ready to go. Or you can Rev Match, which I don't have the correct 100% correct engineers based answer on this, but I believe it's when you're in say third gear and you're going at 4,000 RPM. If you need to drop down to second gear, the RPM is going to raise. It's going to get up to, for example, we'll just say it's 6. If you give a little blip of the throttle before you downshift and you bring the RPMs around 5.5, and then you let out of second, it'll make it a much smoother process. You're trying to match where that new RPM is going to be. And you're riding, you pull the clutch in, you blip the throttle a little bit, click down, let out, and keep going. And then you should be nice and smooth. You're not going to have this huge, jerk of the engine or anything like that. Rev matching just makes your downshifting process a lot smoother. It's not something that you have to do, but it makes it a little bit better. I'll try and show the difference between the two really quick, if what will happen. So we're in first right here. We're in second. We'll go to third. So here, if you downshift, See how it drops with downshift in the first? It's so like, it's jerky. Ugh. We'll go back up, second, third, you know, rev match. Look how smooth that was. I love the sound of this bike. And you never really want to downshift in the first gear. It's highly unnecessary unless you're racing. I usually drop it into second, and then when I get to my light, I just pull the clutch and brake, and then, you know, click it down into first. Be ready to go. The rule I have, so right now this light turned yellow, it's going to turn red. It's a predictable stop. Here, I can time it wherever. Rev match, downshift right there, and I use the engine braking and no brakes. I downshifted pretty early there. It slowed me down a lot more than I had expected, but that's fine. And now I clutch in, brake, and into the stop here. An unpredictable stop would be this light if I were riding and then it all of a sudden turn, you know, yellow and red. Instead of trying to downshift through all the gears and rev matching them and using the engine braking, what you should do, and it's safer, just clutch in both brakes. And when you come to the stop, you can downshift, you can shift down into first so you're ready to go after the light. The one other thing I want to mention is everything should be smooth, like I had said before. So when you use the clutch, when you're letting out after a downshift, let it out nice and smooth. Otherwise you'll be like popping the clutch like you're trying to pull a wheelie or something like that. It just makes the riding experience a little less comforting, I guess. So keep everything smooth when you're doing the downshifts as well. If you're not sure, just always go with the brakes. It's the go-to. It'll be the most safe decision there. I'm not perfect with my downshifts, rev matches. Sometimes I don't even know if I do it 100% the correct way. But one thing I will mention, since we just encountered them, railroad tracks, if they're bumpy or you have any obstacles, stand up on your pegs and your knees end up acting like another set of shocks or forks almost. It'll help absorb the impact, and instead of, you know, you trying to just, when you're on the seat, it's going to hurt. And you also want to give a little gas. Say if there's if you're going slow and there's a speed limit of a 2x4, give it a little gas, helps raise the front end, take the weight off there, make crossing the object a little bit smoother. Again, everything comes down to being nice and smooth on the bike. If this light's still red, I'll show you with just the brakes and not rev matching to come to a stop. It's like it'll still be red. So clutch goes in and you just grab both brakes, come to your stop, and I'm still in fourth gear or whatever, and as you're braking you can click down, and now I'm in first, and now you're ready to go. This is a really safe way. You don't have to deal with, you know, trying to rev match or whatever if you're not perfect with them. It'll come with practice to getting nice and smooth. Right here, downshift, come in, clutch in, brakes, click into first, you're good. If you were to take this turn when it was green, you'd be in second and you'd come take this nice turn, smooth on the throttle. Hopefully I mentioned that earlier, that you should stay a nice constant throttle when you're for the kids. Yeah, so hopefully this tutorial gave you a much more comprehensive overview of how to ride and some of the basics behind it. If there are questions, leave them in the comments. I don't really have anything to do, so I'll make sure to answer all those. If I can't answer them in text, then I will go out and make a video on it and try and explain it that way. And if I can't answer it in general, then I will either find a video to link you, or you might just not get an answer. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.